Okay.
There you
So
go.
the official title is Annual Planning Meeting and What to Analyze Before You Plan for 2026 or something like that anyway. So I'll just dive in. Thank you so much for your time and let me know if you have any questions as they come up. Um, I thought I would just share from our experience doing this multiple years in a row. We came to really enjoy our annual planning time. Um, so just some logistics in terms of what is recommended. A lot of this is based on this book Traction. And we implemented this over the course of a couple of years. So who would attend is your leadership team. This would be any managers that you have that you want to be involved in decision making. And let's see, offsite, you don't want to do it at your business because you'll constantly get wrapped into what's going on or interrupted, et cetera. But it's just easier to disconnect and get offsite. And for the annual planning meeting, really, you want to take 2 days if you can. That's what we did. And yeah, it's plenty of time. You might get done early on the second day. So anything to add on that, Dennis?
It feels more important when you're somewhere else that you paid to be there.
Yeah, for sure. And like we also chose an offsite location, one that I really enjoyed, and I think we did most of the time once we did this, we chose the Indigo Hotel in Everett for us. That was fairly convenient. It was close enough that it didn't, wasn't really terrible travel time, but they had hotel rooms, restaurants. They were able to cater to the room, or we could go to a restaurant. Especially if spouses had come, we could meet for dinner at the end of the day. So that's one option, but like any hotel with facilities would be great. We just liked that one, and it was a newer place when we started.
Yeah. It's the atmosphere of a boardroom that you pay for makes it feel more important.
Yeah. It was nice because it feels very much like going to an outside training, right? Where they're gonna refresh your drinks and refresh any snacks, and you become a lot more disciplined in terms of actually taking a break, mental break, a bio break, set a schedule. But it was a very organized day, and it was just a great working environment. So that's what I recommend. And so for the agenda on day one, I'm just going to go over the agenda overview and then dive into what each one of these actually is. So open with an icebreaker, review the previous year, and then do a team building exercise, do a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, create an issues list, and then dive into your 1 year, 3 year, 5 year plan. This is not exactly what Gina Wickman calls this in Traction, but this is what we did, and it felt a lot more accessible, a lot more relevant for us in our trades business. And then at the end of the day, have dinner together. Shockingly, this can be hard to do. Our last annual planning session, I think that dinner got canceled, didn't it, Dennis? Like something came up. Do you remember? Anyway, but it was disappointing because actually we really wanted to have dinner with everyone. So, but someone might have been having a baby, or I don't remember. Anyway, anything to add on this one, Dennis?
Okay.
What was an example of like a team building thing that you all would do?
Oh, I'm gonna go into one.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Okay, then day 2, open up with establishing your company's next 90-day projects. Tackle key issues as you have time for them, confirm next steps, and wrap up. And that is the end of day 2. And so I'll dive into now what each of these agenda items mean and just give you some examples of what we did. So first, like an icebreaker exercise, this was pretty defined in the Traction book, and we did versions of these. So I really like to start with at least taking 10 minutes for everyone to reflect on, they know the questions in advance, the organization's 3 greatest accomplishments in the previous year, your one greatest personal accomplishment for the year, and your expectations for this planning session. Like, what are you hoping to get out of it? So I think it's really important to give everyone time to reflect and get this all written down before you start. It's really easy to get distracted, to change what you were going to talk about as you hear someone else talk about something, or you're like, oh, that was, I want to change my answer. But I think it's really valuable to get everyone's perspective to see where your mind is at. And so I encourage you to give time to write everything down, and before sharing, make sure that everyone is ready before you start. And then every single member of the team shares. So, and this part, it doesn't take too long, but it can be really interesting. Like, everyone has, I think what I found the most interesting about this is hearing projects or accomplishments that were really important to someone else, and sometimes I had actually forgotten about them. Like, I had such tunnel vision, and I was like, wow, we had a great year. That's right. So that was really fun. Anything to add on that one, Dennis?
Yeah, 100%. Like, you forget all the good stuff, and then once you reflect on all the good things you got done, it gives you energy to plan the next year.
Yeah, you're like, wow, we can do hard things. This is exciting. Okay, next is review the previous year. So one thing about reviewing the previous year, ultimately your goal here is you want to have made goals that were specific and measurable enough that you can tell if you accomplished them, right? So nothing that is so open-ended that you're not actually sure when you're done. And when you are looking at yourself as an organization, you really are aiming for at least 80% or more of these goals accomplished, right? Like, would kind of be your report card, like, good job. If you don't get to 80%, a couple things can happen. Either your goals were a little bit too ambitious. You didn't really correctly assess what you could do together as a team. You took on too much, that kind of thing. Or maybe you're not operating well as a team together, maybe like the work's not getting done. That's one thing. Another thing to look at is, I'm trying to move this thing. Oh, you're trying to measure your ability to predict year over year what you can do. So part of the point of a business review, and really assessing your performance as a team, because this is whoever your leadership team is, you want to know, I think I can get this, this load of projects done, this set of projects done in 1 year. Were we right? Could we actually do that? Because then it gives you the ability to really correctly gauge how much you can get done in a year. You can plan better, and you can also see how well you're working as a team. Are you becoming more efficient? So I think that, that idea of trying to measure your ability to predict the next year is really important and super helpful. So you want to have a variety of things that you're reviewing from the previous year. You want to look at revenue, cost of goods sold, labor, gross profit, net profit, things from your financial statements. These should be part of how you measure your company, and part of the review from the previous year. You might have a particular statistic that you really want to keep track of in your business. Those ones were really important to us. In operations, you want to, we tracked our booking rate, how many leads we generated, our conversion rate, our average invoice, how many sold hours that we billed out for. Those are all really important operational numbers. And so we were looking to see, did we meet our goals? How far off were we? And were we able to correct any of these things as they went wrong in the year? And then also we were reviewing systems or projects that we wanted to get done. Some of those were like, we would want to upgrade a price book with photos and materials, or get a section in our price book as perfect as we could get it. Build a new section in the price book for equipment, for example. That was one thing. We built out equipment for water heaters. We built out equipment for boilers, and then a whole system of estimates and templates and things like that. So that was a project that we reviewed and did in a year, or in that 90-day time frame. And then one time we built out a 9-month training curriculum. So that was something that we reviewed. Another system that we would look back on was putting a new truck on the road every quarter. So just some ideas of things. These are things that we worked on, but it gives you an idea of what kinds of things that you're reviewing. Anything to add on this, Dennis?
Great.
No? Okay. All right. So next, team building exercise. So Taryn, to answer your question, this is the one that Gino recommends in his book. And I'll just go over this one, but then I'm also going to talk about a slight variation for one that we did when we did one of our annual reviews. So this one he calls one thing: each member of the team receives feedback from the others on his or her single greatest strength or most admirable ability, and his or her biggest weakness or hindrance to the success of the company. And then after everyone has received the feedback from their team members, each of them choose one thing they'll commit to doing differently in the coming year based on the feedback. So important things to note during these exercises, and a lot of them are, like you have options, but many of them are just to encourage open and honest conversation. So this happens in front of the whole team. The whole team is present. And one thing that we talked about, even when we began the meeting, is the whole point of this is open and honest communication, like reiterated throughout the entire planning session, quarterly meetings, weekly meetings, open and honest communication. I mean, the real truth behind that statement is you have to have an organization where it's safe for people to provide open and honest communication. If people don't feel safe to tell you the truth, or you have a really strong bioreaction when people do that, that can be really challenging. So it's trust, doing this for a long time, or at least over and over, and not having negative reactions, or being honest and vulnerable yourself as the leader. So you encourage open and honest communication. It's just a really important component of this. So I'll just share one version that we did of this. I actually found my notes from our previous, I have this big notebook, and I found notes. So the idea was, we did a version of this, but your influence on me increases when you do whatever. So we were telling this to each other, or your influence on me decreases when you do this other thing, whatever the negative is. Like, I shut down when you start to do this. I light up when you start to do this. I really want to work with you more when you're this way. I really want to run screaming when you're this way, right? So as is true for my personality, I figured it's funny because I wrote down what people told me, but I only wrote down the negative because I figured the positive I would do naturally anyway, so I didn't worry about it. I didn't care about the compliment, which is so typical of me. I was telling Dennis this before this meeting, but I wrote down, so I'll just share a couple of the things people told me, like in terms of your influence on me decreases when I feel like there's a lack of support or the expectations are super high. That was someone's feedback to me. Another person was when I cut him off and I don't listen, like that decreases the influence that you have with me. And then another person, when you don't hear me or when you're abrupt. And I was like, oh, there's a theme there. I cut people off and I'm a little abrupt. So like that was really good information, right? So yeah, anything you want to add on that, Dennis? You were there.
Yeah, well, I think part of it, the open, so 3 people told their boss that, which indicates how trustworthy, open it was and vulnerable it was. We did another one where that was really important was how we think. And this wasn't more of a warm up, it was another session, but like to understand, like to have this kind of thing, you have to actually know how to work together. And we did a thinking exercise. We had a consultant teach us how everybody thinks different. Remember that?
Yeah,
And
yep.
I always tell people that everybody thinks this way, but when I'm upset with my wife, especially. And come to find out that under pressure, I think way outside, like unusually outside the box. And you under pressure think as close to the inside as possible.
Well, even you have a bias even to say that, but the way, because what it was is like you get super creative under pressure, I think is the terminology, right?
Yeah.
You get super creative. And I get super like, I want to know what is the established procedure? Like, what did we agree on? Where is safety in terms of the agreed upon system, or do you know what I mean? Like, I go to data. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the exercise that we did. It was more than just an icebreaker, but it really helped us understand how to work together, appreciate each other's strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah. Well, and to observe what's happening, right? So we're just like, no, you're crazy. What are you doing?
Yeah. So I think that's part of the objective of this is to bring your team closer together so you can actually have constructive work.
Yeah. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. Okay. SWOT analysis. So this, again, this is the next part of the annual planning meeting that just the process that we followed. We would go through and make sure everyone contributes, because everyone has a different take on what our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. So I think it's a really, really good opportunity to get a much more broad view of what's going on in your leadership team's world. So, and then just write down all of them, compile them together. Everyone starts with their own list, and again, give plenty of time for people to think through what do I think are our strengths? What do I think are our weaknesses? Start individually, but then compile. And the outcome of this SWOT analysis starts to be the basis of all of the issues that you will be discussing over the next year, possibly even longer with your company. So I just put a couple of examples. Some are random, some are things that were on our SWOT analysis. At the time, like strengths, our reputation, and having several thousand, Google reviews, that was a strength for us. Another strength was having a training program for apprentices. So we knew exactly how we were going to get people up to speed and be able to train without needing applicants to constantly come through the door. That was another strength. Having a tech waiting list of people who had applied, but we didn't have room for, that was a strength. Weaknesses, one of our weaknesses was our payroll process was not very scalable. So we knew as we grew, that was something we had to fix, because we would not be able to continue to do payroll in half a day. It was going to start eating up way more resources in order to be accurate. So that was a weakness we knew was coming up. Low booking rate. We didn't actually have this one, but that would be a weakness, a low booking rate. It would indicate that you're not able to do enough with your opportunities. Truck restock issues would be a weakness. And we sometimes had those on and off. Opportunities would be a new service area you want to go into, or a new service you want to start offering, or a new training class. So better training on something that you already do. And threats could be a law change, a procedural change, a new competitor starts hiring and recruiting your techs right out from under you, and it's a lawsuit or a claim, maybe something that you have to fix because you don't want that to ever happen again. Anything else on this, Dennis?
Looks great.
Okay. All right, so we would start from this list, you would start to do your issues list. So every time, like everyone has their own strengths, weaknesses. So what kind of issues do we want to come up with? Like one issue, even if you have a training program, these are examples. So we need to delegate the training program. If you as the owner don't want to administer it all the time, like an issue is delegating that training program so that someone else can handle it. Or how do we want to keep in touch with the techs on the waiting list? Yes, we have a waiting list, but now we have a new thing to do. We don't have any way to keep in touch with them. What's that process going to look like? How do we know if people are still interested, not interested? How do we let them know we still are interested in them? How are we going to make our payroll process scalable? Because that, in order to grow and scale, we need to. What would be the core reason that the booking rate is low? What's actually happening? Is it something, what do we need to fix as a company? How do we make sure our truck restock is done when the tech leaves the job? Like what procedure in the company is broken that's not happening? And are we ready to offer the new service? Like if we have an opportunity, what would need to go into being prepared? Do we have the right material on the trucks? Do the CSRs know about it? Does it mean any kind of different dispatch fee? Do we need to add job types or anything additional to our software? What kinds of tasks need to be put into our price book? That kind of thing. So these are just examples of issues that would come up based on this SWOT analysis. Anything to add on this one, Dennis?
Looks great. Good job.
Okay. All right. So the next part of day one would be your 1 year, 3 year, 5 year plan. I'm going to click through. I think I have another slide. Yeah. So I really like having a 5 year plan, Max. Everyone's different. In the book Traction, Gino Wickman has like a 10 year, big, hairy, audacious goal kind of idea. I found that I've never actually liked any 10-year plan that I put out, but I really have liked a 5 year plan a lot. So I'm just sharing what I actually think instead of regurgitating a book to you. But so for the 5 year plan, it's a pretty broad picture. You're looking at revenue, profit percentage, number of trucks you might want at that time. Just so like 5 years, if you were planning for 2026, 5 years at the end of this year, 5 years would be by 12/31/2030. So you're just thinking of in terms of when will this actually happen? And then building a 3 year picture. So by 12/31/2028, what does this actually look like, our company? Getting really specific on revenue, number of techs that you want by then, number of trucks, any new office staff that would be needed to support, like am I going to need more CSRs to support more incoming calls? Am I gonna want to start utilizing AI answering the phones? Does my current location support the parking and the infrastructure and the meetings? Do I have a meeting room big enough for a bigger company? What kind of savings do I want to have in the bank? What net profit do I want to maintain in order to get there? Do I need to offer new services in order to get to this 3 year goal? So those are things that you'd actually document, right? And have build the actual picture so everyone understands what we're building towards. So very, very specific. Whatever items are important to you. These are some of the ones that would have been important to me that I would have looked at. You might have some different ones. Anything to add on that, Dennis? Like what were ones that you were thinking of?
It was always trucks and techs, like how many more techs? And what was crazy is, right, I was always driving for growth. And the crazy thing is, you look out 5 years and it was giant numbers. And so what's cool is to bring it back into, okay, what do we got to do year one? And that's more manageable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that leads into the 1 year plan. So we would start to think about it on, okay, so what are 10 specific things that have to happen this year, or 15 or 5, like whatever the things are, But say, for example, you want to put on 4 trucks in 2026. So it starts to get, very specific. I would start to think of it based on quarters, because these meetings were like, we were having an annual meeting, but we were going to have a quarterly meeting every quarter. So we would start to think about, okay, I don't want to put on 4 trucks in Q4. I probably don't want that. I am not physically capable of doing all that work in 1 quarter. So then you have to start thinking about, okay, what can my team actually sustain? How many new trucks can I get? How many like shelving units can I put together or hire? What's my cash flow going to support for stocking up a new truck? How many people do I think I can hire? Who's graduating and when from my apprenticeship school? So like, this is where we'd start to get really, really specific in the 1-year plan. And so, for example, maybe Q1, the plan was just to purchase and set up a new truck, and someone would be responsible for that. And we would need to start running ads for new tech. Maybe we didn't have an apprentice that was going to be ready. So we're going to really drive for a new hire. And then what needs to happen in Q2? You might not get the tech hired until Q2, but then are you going to add another truck in Q2? What are the calls you need? Like, what's that change going to look like so you can start monitoring call count? That kind of thing. Does that make sense? Like, starting to think about your goals based on the work that it takes in a quarter and putting this into an overall 1-year plan.
Something super important here is you gotta agree on the plan before you start breaking it down. So when we worked this is where I say we have to argue enough to get on the same idea. But here's another thing that's really cool. If you guys are in a partnership, if you just have 2 of you, you could argue, especially if you're related, you can argue and not get on the same page. But when you've got your other leadership team, it kind of keeps the argument under control. But then the other leadership team can say, Dennis, you're crazy. That doesn't make any sense. And so it's not my sister-in-law telling me I'm crazy. It's all 4 of my other leadership teams telling I'm crazy. So it helps me. It helps me believe it better, right? Right. It's true. So, but then you have to argue enough to get that 3-year picture really dialed in, and the whole team needs to agree, this is where we want to be in 3 years. And if you don't do that, your 1-year plan is not going to work, and your 1 quarter's plan is not going to work. So it's super important at this stage to agree on these goals. Otherwise, you might as well stop.
Yeah.
The whole rest of time that's all a waste of time, because you leave this 2-day planning section on different pages actually fighting for your own things. It won't work.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a point of, someone ultimately has to decide, right? So, but it is really important if you want to build a company where you have your entire leadership team or whoever that is in your company working on the plan, then we all have to be excited about the plan. Like, the reality is that if you don't like the plan, you won't work very hard on it. And so, yeah, it's incredibly helpful and effective to have a plan that everyone's on board. Everyone sees the vision and likes where we're going. So, good point, Dennis. Anything else to add before I move to the next slide? Okay, so that moves us into 90-day projects, which is the next part of the plan. And I think based on I don't remember if this is on day 2. I think we might be on day 2 now of the agenda. But 90-day projects the idea of this is most teams really only have the ability to sustain about 90 days of energy and focus. And so you really focus on what are we going to get done on the next 90 days. And so just like Dennis mentioned, you base your 1-year plan and what needs to get done by agreeing and debating on which projects will be greenlighted for the next quarter, and then assign the projects for the next 90 days. So there's a couple of rules to this, as I would think of them, because like Dennis pointed out, I tend to go to like, what's the system? And we're going to do the system. So 3 to 7 projects max for the entire company per quarter. And sometimes this can feel really limiting, but I think it's really good because I can tell you that every single time we violated this rule because we thought, oh, it's just a little project, every single time we generally were less effective in that quarter, and we ended up with more projects that were not complete. So I think that's a really good recommendation from the book Traction. Also, no side projects like this. This is really important as a group to agree that, okay, this is where the debating, the really good, open, honest conversation comes from, because another thing that can really get you off track in this process is not really advocating for your idea, or the team shuts down your idea and then you go work on it anyway, and do a side project instead of the project that your team agreed on. And it can make you look, I mean, it's just sort of not a team player thing to do. So like, that's one of the things that we agreed on in our company is no side projects, no pet projects. We would work on what we agreed on as a team, just to really respect the leadership team aspect. And then being really clear on who is responsible for each project, who's the leader. That does not mean that that person does every single thing on the list, but it does mean that they have committed, that they understand what the project is, that they understand what done looks like, and that they know what resources they need. It's greenlit, and they know how to get that project done to completion and pull in the right people. And then also it needs to, like what done looks like needs to be specific and measurable. For example, it would be like building out the plumbing section of the price book so that every task in the plumbing section has materials and pictures, materials for restock and pictures of what we are selling by September 30, or something like that, like very specific with numbers, a completion date. And so so that we're very clear that we're all getting what we want, and we don't put any team member in a position of trying to complete something that no one's going to be happy with, because that feels terrible as well. What do you have to add to that one, Dennis, to this?
No side projects. Yes. That was so hard.
Yeah.
Because most of us that start companies like side projects, we get bored. But what's really cool is when you come to your quarterly meeting and you're able to tell your team that everything you got done, and it's super rewarding. And then also when you're public with that, you're actually giving your team the right to call you out. And they walk in your office and they say, is this a side project? And you go, yeah. So the no side project, I think for most business owners is super important.
Yeah.
Right,
Thank you.
Todd?
What?
Yeah, you can ask Taryn all about it.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, it's very hard. And you always think that they won't take as many resources or as much of your time and focus as they do. And they can be a killer for like the actual projects that you agreed on. Okay, and then solve key issues. Honestly, this was something like the rest of all of these parts of the agenda that we just went through, believe it or not, it took so much time. I don't remember ever getting to solving key issues in our annual planning meeting or even in our quarterly meetings. Dennis, do you remember getting to this very often? This was mostly stuff that we had to do during the week, right? Yeah, because there was so much discussion about just like, goals for the year and who and what, just agreeing as a group. And we had 5 people on our leadership team, and getting all 5 of us to agree on the projects that we thought would move the company forward during this planning time, and agreeing on the vision and all of those other things took so much time. We rarely got to this, but I'm going to go over what it is, because this is something that we did do very regularly in our meetings. And so we would go to our issues list that came from our SWOT analysis or any other previous issues, or you ask your team to create, what issues do you see? And then as a group, we would look at all of these issues and we would prioritize what are our top 3. Like, if we are going to get to any of these today, what's number 1, what's number 2, what's number 3? And then we would just get started on number 1, whatever we all agreed was our number 1 issue. And so we'd use this IDS process that I have down at the bottom, identify the real problem, which is more complicated than it seems, and then discuss openly all aspects of it, getting everyone's opinion out on the table, trying really hard not to go off on a tangent. And then what's the solution? So identify, discuss, and solve. And a solution means we made the issue go away forever. It might mean that this is actually a future project. We cannot discuss this issue away. It actually needs a project. But we already have selected our 90-day projects at this point. So it's a little bit of a discipline too. Like, yes, this is an issue, but we prioritize these things, based on the 1-year, 3-year, 5-year plan for this company. So like, there will be another day, and an issue might turn into one project, might turn into a couple of projects to get solved. So we would get started. And again, open and honest communication here goes a long way. And just making sure that everyone has a say. And I think the hardest thing about this was to ask enough questions to get down to what the real problem was, because it's really tempting to just kind of problem solve quickly and not really get down to the root of why is this happening in our company, especially without doing the whole blame game and everything is, oh, it's so-and-so. But usually when you have an issue in your company, this is also where we got the focus on, is this a systems problem? Usually a systems problem, not usually a person problem. And so, what is the system at the root of this issue, and how can we solve that? What do you want to add, Dennis?
Yeah, just a question, is it a people problem or is it a system problem? Figuring that out, being honest about it.
Yeah. So that's, if you have time, you go to solving key issues during this. You've got your whole leadership team together, and you've booked this conference room for the day. So we generally didn't leave until 3 or 4 in the afternoon. We'd start usually around 8, because that way it gives us a chance to, if we wanted to check in on the business, between 7 and 8, we could get something to eat. It was not a crazy early day, and still allowed us to make sure the day was set up for success before we got started, even if we were doing it remotely. And then next step. So this is typically a very short part of the meeting, because you've done most of the hard work before you even get here. So the objective is to clarify who is doing what, and all the decisions that were made in the meeting, make sure that they are all documented. And if they aren't documented already, who's going to document them, who has the notes. And it's also a chance to double check that everyone understands what done looks like for their projects. Then this was really helpful, because a couple of times, I can't remember a specific instance, maybe you can, Dennis, but we would just make sure everyone understands what they're doing for their project. And it would become clear through that discussion that, wait, we actually we aren't saying the same thing about what done looks like. And so it's really important to make sure, that's why you want to be really specific, measurable, write out literally in the description of the project what we are doing, what done looks like, so that no one has to come to the next meeting working on the wrong thing. And then also scheduling, make sure that the next meeting is scheduled, agree that, set the meeting that's 90 days from now when you're going to have the quarterly review. Make sure everyone gets it on their calendar so that they're available and it doesn't coincide with, one of your leadership team's time off or something like that. So this is part of what's done in next steps. Anything you want to add to this part of the meeting, Dennis?
No, sounds good.
Okay. And then the last part is conclude. So this was the fun part of the meeting. I thought I love getting feedback. So we would give each other feedback on the meeting. We would tell, we'd take again a couple minutes for everyone to get ready to share. So they would share feedback on the meeting and whether their expectations were met or not. And then the rating on the meeting from 1 to 10, 1 being it was terrible and 10 being it was fantastic. And so one thing that we also did is to make sure that if it wasn't a 10, how we could have made it better. And a lot of this, I don't know what other teams do, but from our perspective, we often, we approach this from the perspective of if this meeting wasn't a 10, we're almost grading our own participation and our own willingness to show up. And what I mean by that is like, if I rated a meeting at an 8, and then I would share, it's because I was not engaged. Like I checked out at some point during this meeting, or I got frustrated and didn't openly and honestly share, what I thought, or whatever the thing is, that it was more a rating, not of my fellow leadership team, but a rating of my own ability and how I showed up in the meeting. Did I give it a 10, or did I show up at like 80% that day? Anything to add on this, Dennis?
I remember being really tired at this point.
For sure. It's exhausting. Yeah.
It's all emotional. It's all emotion. Getting everybody on the same page. Everybody's got their own ideas and thoughts and also so when you leave, if you've actually played full out, it's also awesome.
Yeah. I would leave so excited about the next quarter, excited about the projects, excited to work with the team and to check in and see how it was going and what roadblocks were we going to encounter and what could we move out of the way. Yeah, it was great. But this system helped us grow a lot and accomplish quite a bit of what we wanted to accomplish. So I think, let's see, I don't know if I don't remember. Oh, I do have a couple more slides. I just want to share. So if you want to learn more about this process, Gino Wickman, he wrote a whole book that goes over the annual process, the quarterly meetings, the weekly meetings, all of the things that go into it. And there's also a couple of resources like that are kind of online apps or websites where you can use them to help you manage. It's a lot of data to manage a lot of projects. And there is a whole, like you can either use 90.io or bloomgrowth.com. These are two that I know about that are used to manage this process and just manage the sort of activities of keeping projects going as a team, a software for that. And then if you have any other questions, this I think takes you to this QR code if you wanted to book any time to ask a question offline, or my email right there, or my phone number. But also, thank you so much for your time. And if there are any questions, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And thank you.
How many years did you guys go through this process?
We started doing a version of this kind of thing in 2000. I want to say like 2017, but formally doing the traction thing, I think we did this for about four years.
Did you find that it got smoother over time every year?
Yeah, 100%. Well, and there's a lot, like the first year, there is a lot to get set up. And then the more like the more you do it, the easier all the terminology gets and the meeting cadence and just kind of knowing what you can, again, that predictability as a team. Knowing how you work together as a team and what you can actually get done. So you get a lot more effective too. And you start to trust each other a lot more, so.
Did you try it with the coach or without?
We hired an implementer. Yeah. Marty.
How would it be a lot harder to do it without an implementer?
Yeah, I mean, I think so, because the implementer helped us. I think that it helped make the process, go more smoothly. We would have had a lot of learning and a lot of questions, whereas, it's a very self-directed process, even with an implementer, but it really helped us. Probably, Dennis, to be fair, it probably helped us have a moderator, right?
No, I would, it wouldn't have worked without it, we wouldn't have got nearly as much done.
Yeah.
Because again, especially with a lot of these companies are family business, we're not the only ones that do it this way. Family, it's really hard to argue honestly, or even hear feedback honest. And so to have another successful person, third party, a interested third party that usually said, Dennis, this is crazy. Right? Kimberly's right. I'd be like, well, how do you know? Well, because he said so. So it was really, really helpful to have an outside party helping you. So I would really recommend an implement.
How much of your leadership team was the same every year you did it? Did that change a lot?
80%.
Pretty much.
I mean, I would say, we had, let's see, that's a hard question. I mean, we had some transition with service managers over the time, but Dennis and I were always a constant. The controller was a constant. We had, I'd say out of a team of 5, 1 maybe changed every year. So maybe, yeah. So that's right on. Dennis. 80% was a constant. Yeah.
So Dennis was right. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dennis is right.
Kevin, I owe you, buddy.
You're right on, Dennis.
Now, the other thing I was going to ask you, Kimberly, how big do you think your group can be and still be effective in planning this? 5 was good. 10?
The whole leadership team, Albert.
Okay, so this is a place that Dennis and I varied. I tend to think big enough, only as big as it has to be effective. And as small as it can possibly be to be effective, right? You don't want to do, it is too much work to do on your own. Truly to grow and scale a company, it is such a team effort. There is no way you did any of this on your own. That became so clear to me in the last, 8 years of running the business. It's no one did anything on their own. But I think if the team is too big, it's too many voices, it's too much confusion, it's too many opinions, it's too hard to get focused. And so we kept ours at 5, and I was really happy with that. 8 would have been way too many for me. I mean, it would have just been ego, I think, in the room.
That's a great question. I always wanted to bring let's have our service managers in with us. Well, I was trying to make everybody included, right? Because that's important. But this is very strategic.
5 was kind of the sweet spot.
Yeah.
For what you guys are saying.
Yes, and there are other meetings, right? There are other meetings that you can have with other people, right? But not this meeting. This meeting is the strategy for the whole. This is the strategy for 5 years. This is the strategy for next year. I mean, it is, you have to trust the work product of all of these people as well, and what they're focused and how much do they understand about the business. And it's a lot to manage, because the bigger this is, I was the implementer for the business, or the integrator, I think is what it's technically called. So, I needed to meet with every single person on this team to check in on progress on their projects as well, right? And to manage that whole process. So the bigger this gets, the bigger job that is. So, yeah, I think 5 was a great number. I would have been
Yeah.
happy with 3 or 4 too, but we needed more people to get these projects done too, so.
So, the law of buy-in, how much time did it take after this meeting to get everybody else to buy in to what you guys are saying?
You mean like when we would go, like, what do you mean?
Well, so you did this annual meeting, but you still had your weekly meetings. And you said you were the integrator, so you still had to go check and see if things were done. How much time did that take? How many meetings did that take?
Oh,
get every-
well, yeah, I mean, so we would present the plan like to the company every quarter. And that was just part of we'd have an extra long meeting every quarter with the whole entire team, like literally all the office staff, all the plumbers, every single person in the company would come to that meeting and we'd present the plan. So that took a little extra time, but the managing the individual people, I had one-to-ones with them every week anyway. And so this is probably just a piece of our one-to-one, right? And then also we'd be a self-managing team. We had a leadership team every single Wednesday. And so we would also report to each other during that leadership team meeting. And that was, I think those were 90 minutes long. So it was just through one-to-ones and the leadership team weekly meeting.
I think most of the buy-in work this is the buy-in work.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody on the same page, have all arguments on the table, have a moderator to help you solve conflicts.
Yeah.
So when we leave here, that we were all bought in.
Yeah.
But you
I
have
mean,
to-
that was the job.
The people,
Yeah,
so
so,
you'd meet with them every week, but then every quarter. You'd have a big
Yeah.
meeting,
yeah, we present,
and that's how you got buy-in from
Yeah.
everybody.
this is what we
What you
argued
got.
about, we joke
Well-
like we joke, all the stuff and present it.
Well,
So you already
the
had
thing is,
structures in place to receive the.
Yeah.
Annual
guess
quarter.
I didn't think of it that way. Like I wasn't looking for buy-in at our 90-day meeting with techs and CSRs and like, no, we were letting them know how exciting the direction of the company was and like what we were going to do and what we were going to get accomplished and what we had already accomplished and why we were doing it. But like, I wasn't looking for buy-in. We were painting a vision that was hopefully inspiring and they could see what was in it for them. But buy-in, like, do you know what I mean? Like it was, we hoped it would be a compelling vision, but there was no debate at that meeting.
Yeah, I think it sounds crass and direct, but we're going in this direction. We're excited about this direction. And you're with us, so you're not. And those that weren't just kind of.
That's what I'm asking.
You help their journey to somewhere else.
There's
You have
a-
to buy into that.
If you can't stand this direction, what are you doing here?
Exactly.
There's no saying this, you do something like a democracy, but then you rule like a dictator.
Execute like collect information like a democracy and execute like a dictator. Yeah.
So we come out of that meeting, the whole leadership team we're all on the same page. And we presented to the company, and this is the direction we're headed. There's no question. And it went great, like people love to know that their leadership is certain. They're all on this, my leader isn't arguing with your leader. Obviously, they're all on the same page and look how excited they are. They feel comfortable. Now they trust, okay, and buy-in was just natural.
I think that also comes from a little bit, not a little bit, a lot of it, having good morale at the company. When you have the good morale, people trust the direction that you're taking the company. Therefore, I do believe and understand that there's the process of buy-in. Some people may have issues swallowing the pill of some information more than others, but at the end of the day, the continuous growth of the company, people see that things are getting bigger. No one is ever going to be upset at a raise, and that's inevitably what will come when a company does grow. And if you're part of that growth, you more than likely will be rewarded. And I think that's what most people do understand the greater picture. You do have your ones that fall off the wagon, for less of a better word. And that was their point in life where they were done.
Yeah.
They have to go on to bigger and better for themselves.
Right.
Yeah, well, I think another, like, if you do read through the whole idea of these kinds of meetings and pretty open management, is that every single week, every single employee has an opportunity to give feedback, right? Like that, this whole issues list, that's something that happened in our tech meeting as well, right? Like they could raise an issue and we kept an issues list for technicians, for dispatchers, CSRs, like every position had the opportunity to give feedback during their regular weekly meeting. And, so hopefully with, a level of open, honest communication from the bottom to the top, concerns would be addressed. That was always our goal anyway.
So that's where you're collecting information like a democracy.
Yeah,
Every
Correct.
week.
Yep.
some of the departments have the similar style meeting and bring issues. So when we go to our annual meeting, our leaders are saying, this is what I've been struggling with and this is my issues. And then usually when we come back from our meeting, we're gonna, hey, we heard you, and we're gonna,
Yeah.
all our efforts are to solve that problem and that problem and that problem. I heard that problem and we'll get to that next, but we're gonna handle these three first. And everybody feels heard. And then when
That's the
you,
goal anyway.
yeah, and then when you actually fix problems, people get really excited.
Mhm. Yep. Right on. Thank you, Kimberly, for this.
Great job.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun to dive in again. All right, thanks, Dennis. It was, yeah, great.